Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
We're going live in
So be here before
10 seconds.
right?
We're going live in 10 seconds.
Roughly.
That's a rough 10
Depends
seconds.
on the Wi-Fi. And like that. You don't spinning wheel.
Spinning wheel. Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to the final streaming session from the instrumental workshop of Yiddish Summer Weimar 2021. Our special subject this year is the Kisselhoff-Makonovetsky Digital Manuscript Project. And as many of you know, under the direction of the leadership of Christina Crowder and her team, they have been working on digitizing this material long before getting to Weimar. But our goal in Weimar was to take some of that material for everybody to get a feeling for what that digitization meant, and then to start making music together with that, and to find out what kinds of questions come up when we take these old manuscripts and we start making music with them. And I may have already shown this, but in case not, this is this year's poster from Yiddish Summer Weimar, and it's also the cover of a tune booklet that we created that actually was created by a group of people. Created everybody there. A very, very interesting process that uses only the latest innovations in voting technologies and ranked choice voting. So that's great. We're at the forefront of new thinking in democracy, which is how it should be. I have to say Jewish people have been there for at least a century, so it's nice to be back. And what do I want to say? And this is the Yiddish Summer Weimar Core Repertoire 2021, a sampler of music from the Kisselhoff-Makonovetsky Digital Manuscript Project, edited by Jutta Bogen, Christina Crowder, and Hanna Ochner. And wonderful. Excellent job. And what we have here is 22 tunes in a very beautifully made book that Christine and the others laid out, which shows on one side the original manuscript, either a photograph of it, of course, either in color or black and white, and on the other side, the digitized version of it, where it's very clear that all the digitizations are still works in progress, which means that there's lots of correcting going on, but that's great because it means that here in Yiddish Summer Weimar, we're not presenting you with just a fait accompli, like here's the music that you can buy of the complete works of Chopin that's been edited 1,000 times. We're in the middle of making this right now. And what you do is going to matter for what it is in the future. So everybody who's been engaging with this week actually has made and will continue to make contributions in what this work is, not just this book of 12 tunes, but the entire project, which is just phenomenal and very, very moving. And what I wanted to do in this session is kind of take a look back at a week of having worked on this, ask the teachers of the workshop if they have some special experiences that they'd like to share with us. You can take photos. And ask you, the students, and also the people who are out in online land, in Yiddish online land, if you have some questions about this. And what I'm hoping is that we'll have some examples that we can also illustrate with a little bit of playing. Like, well, with this tune, I wasn't really sure whether it's an E flat or an E natural. We had a really interesting example of this yesterday. Let's hear what sounds like if we play it this way. Let's hear what it sounds like. And we kind of reach a consensus. And then we find out, actually, this sounds more Ukrainian than we thought it was. This was Christian David's session 2 days ago, which I saw there was a lot of nice comments on that. Makes a lot of sense. So first of all, let me just introduce the people who are here. Next to me is Christina Crowder, the executive director of the Klezmer Institute and of the KMD-MP project. Next to her is Hanna Ochner, who has single-handedly digitized more than 300 of these tunes, a phenomenal result. Next to her is Abigail Reisman, violinist. Next to her is Mark Kovnatsky, violinist. Next to Mark is Samuel Seifert, violinist. I don't know who the guy is next to him, but I feel like I've known him for about 40 years. I think not a violinist. Christian David. Next to Christian is Emil Goldschmidt, clarinetist from Copenhagen. And next to Emil is Ilya Schneeves, multi-instrumentalist from much missed in Berlin right now, living in the United States right now. And just a big hello to all of our friends and loved ones who are out there. if we turn the camera on the people here, let's just do that for a second. You'll see many, many familiar faces, people whom you know and love, and people who wish that you were here with us right now. And hopefully next year you'll be able to. That would be really great. So let's call that the introduction. And my first question that I want to ask you, which any of you can answer, is, were there any surprises this week? There's a microphone here. Pick up a mic and tell me if there were surprises.
I'm picking up the mic. Surprises, yeah, not just this week, actually before. No, because when I saw this material first, I looked a little bit through it and I thought, like, it's amazing, it's great, but on the other hand, now we got like 800 more tunes that sound exactly like the 800 tunes we already know. But no, actually not. Like one of the tunes we did this week, this Gassenstickel. You remember that? What we did? And in the second part of that, it has so many chromatic notes that all of us who had looked at this piece, you know, we all thought like, are there mistakes in there? Is it really what that is, right? And that was a process, because then we tried to find some harmonies. We found some harmonies. We played it a few times. And now I think, at least in our trad group, we are all convinced, no, it's really like that. It's absolutely like that.
Let's hear that.
Yeah.
Let's play that.
Yeah.
Let's hear that. What are you talking about? Here in Yiddish Summer Weimar, we believe that we should be able to play what we talk about. We not only talk the talk and walk the walk, we play the play. Play the play. Yeah, everybody who has their instruments handy and knows this piece can join.
Well, can you give us the KMDMP number?
What's the KMDMP number? Hannah.
117.
Mac 117.
No, let's give
Mac.
the full number.
Okay, hang on a
Mac
second.
1.
Mac 1.
Is it Mac 1?
Yeah, it's Mac 1.
Yeah.
It's definitely 117. I don't remember.
Mac 1 32117.
There we go. Mac 1 32
And
117.
it's number 10 in the Yiddish Summer Weimar book.
Right. Thanks. What would be really great would be to get like right to that section you were talking about, and then go from the beginning. But like, let's hear the problem part.
Should I just play it real quick for the...
Let's hear that that
Okay.
so-called problematic
Join
part.
in.
Yeah, some things that are a little bit unusual. So was that a matter of getting used to how that sounded like for you before you said, well, actually, we think this is not a mistake, but this is actually beautiful?
Yeah. Also just trying, you know, when you see a note, when you think, is this really an F sharp or maybe an F, then trying also to harmonize it. And I didn't find anything that sounded better, actually.
Let's hear it again.
Yeah.
Let's hear it a few times, just so
Keep
everybody...
going, or should we stop?
Let's just play that section a
Be
few...
the whole B
Yeah,
section?
yeah.
The B section.
Good.
Everybody. 1, 2, 3.
Beautiful. And this is one of the Makonovetsky manuscripts, meaning that the chances that he himself notated it correctly are pretty good.
Oh, it's for sure.
It's him.
It's him.
All right.
It's his.
So, I mean, we're talking about a very highly qualified musician, so we can't say, oh, this was just some ethnographer who didn't know what was going on. it was a highly qualified musician who wrote down exactly what he wanted to be played, which is interesting. So, cool. That was a surprise. Any other surprises?
Abigail, were you surprised by Mac in general? And
Microphone?
all of the kooky classical stuff?
Was I surprised? Thanks, okay. I'm getting the microphone and I don't know what I'm going to say. Was I surprised by Bankovetsky?
And all of the classical long form kookiness that's in there.
No, I wasn't surprised by it because of his story. Like, we know, I mean, Craig's over there, he knows too, like, that Makhnovetsky was really, really interested in furthering his classical playing. So it's no surprise that there were these, showpieces in there. And I've seen those showpieces before. I think that Baragovsky put 3 or 4 of them at the end of the collection. But you know what I was surprised to see that many.
There's a lot of them.
Heft 4 is just... For you violinists out there, it is all really long, just showpieces, or as maybe Zev would call them, display pieces.
And we're talking about Mac 4 and can I have this?
Just to clarify, I sort of arbitrarily, not semi-arbitrarily, split the Makhnovetsky wedding manuscript into 6 sections. Numbers 5 and 6 are individual notebooks, but the 1 through 4 are one big long music manuscript. So they're sort of a little bit arbitrarily put into chunks, but only because the PDFs would have been too big to deal with if it was one thing. So, but Mac 4 is the end of this one long music book. And so, yeah, it's filled, there's tons of them. I don't know, how many do you think? There's like 15 or 20 of them? Something like that.
Yeah.
So already in Baragovsky's Jewish instrumental folk music, he mentions in the beginning that there's a certain amount of this which is music for dancing, and another amount which is music for listening. Music for listening doesn't necessarily mean sitting in concerts, but it does mean music which we're really intended to listen to rather than music for dancing. And I think maybe our sense of how much of that there was and how demanding that was has been changed by this archive. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's great. There's many pieces where Makhnovetsky will write, and this is not for dancing, right?
Aha.
How many pieces would you say you read that in, Anna?
I can't really say a number, but there are quite a few, and not only what we would classify as Stopitian, but also something where we would say, oh yeah, this is a Freilach, and it's not even called Freilach, but it's yeah, it says it's for listening, and it often has this, like, he often says it's a holy piece, so it has some kind of spiritual quality. So I think that also happens on top of the big pieces that Abigail was talking about.
Yeah. I think the thing that I was surprised about in Mac in particular is that in Baragovsky we have things from this Makhnovetsky manuscript, but they're pieces that are attributed to other people. Right, Craig? There's like the Podotzer piece, and is there a Stempenu piece or?
No, I think there's an altar.
Chudnover, right? So I was under the impression that Makhnovetsky had just written down these few famous pieces from other people, attributed to other people, but what we find, what must clearly be Makhnovetsky's own compositions, and they didn't make him into Baragovsky.
Yeah.
Right?
Does he say anywhere anything about this is more for me?
This is just my inferring it. I feel like he gets very flustered about making, in his writing, he's like, I'm pretty sure this piece was by Stempenu, but I'm not sure, and I'm sorry, and all this kind of stuff. And then there's some pieces where he writes nothing, so I'm like, maybe he wrote it, and he just didn't want to be like, I wrote it.
Because he's so careful about attribution.
It seems, but I haven't, I don't know.
Okay.
There's definitely some stamp in there.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the points that came out already before Yiddish Summer Weimar, I feel like I read this online a couple of months ago. Maybe Christina, you shared this, and I know that Sasha sent me a message about this. Is this remark that Makhnovetsky makes at the bottom of a waltz, where he says, everybody knows. Can you quote that exactly how that goes?
Yes.
Everybody knows where to slow down and speed up and how to play this, like basic interpretive things that are not in the score. Where it's the first time that we have, as far as I know, in this sort of, from this generation, someone clearly stating that the notes are not sufficient for playing this music, that you have to have a lot of background knowledge and bring that to it. And it indicates that there's rubato and there's accelerando and all kinds of things which we know normally from music. But because we don't see it on the page, we might think, oh, well, they played everything straight. And here's very clear witness that it was not played that way.
So the quote, the group translation in English is, "The waltz is to be played according to its character. Everybody understands where to go out of strict time, where to speed up, where to play softly, and where to become stronger." Because I had no printed music, he's a little bit of a non sequitur thinker, so he'll say a thing and there's no punctuation apparently anywhere in his writing, almost none. So change of topic, because I had no printed music, ... And in the same way, the mazur is also played naturally as one understands it.
Speaking of mazur, how would we like to play the mazurka once through?
Sure.
Let's play the mazurka. So this is
Oh, should we do the one that we?
could we do?
We never did do that one altogether.
Ah,
did we? But we did the
maybe-
other one. We could do.
Why don't we play the mazurka that we know first,
know.
and then go from that into the one that you taught us yesterday? Is that okay? Sure. So get ready for the second mazurka. We're going to play the first one, and at a certain point, Sam is going to cue you into the second one.
They're in different keys, correct?
Yes. KMDMP number 02-37-997.
I took all of my.
All right, let's give this a try. Spontaneous performance. So we're going to play this one first. Oh, not that one. This one. Piano. And then we're going to transition to the one that you all played with us together, okay?
99?
Number
Do the one
19.
that Sam taught after we do this one.
The polka mazurka.
We're doing this first, and then we're doing Sam's mazurka.
You turn the piano a bit up.
What number is Sam's mazurka?
This is
3.
338 1099.
338 1099. How can Americans
For all
forget
of you American
1099?
taxpayers.
Yeah, that's a taxpayer form number in the United States.
Rounded by points.
1099 is what all the freelancers
Right in the middle. Like,
Okay, are we ready, kind of?
can you turn the piano a bit up?
the drums down.
Good.
It's
Let's
as low
wait
as
for
Joe.
everybody to be ready. We're almost ready. So we'll start with a little trio intro, right? Just the new Yiddish music trio intro. Y'all ready? 1, 2, 3, 2. Very nice. So, great example of the kind of forward movement, back movement, push, pull, suspension, moving forward. Actually, this would be a piece. I don't know if Steve Weintraub is watching this right now. It would be great if you were. But anyway, I have to think of him because I know that he would be dancing a mazurka like crazy in front of us if we had this music here for him. And Steve will bring you back as soon as we possibly can, and you can show us all how to do a great mazurka. That's part of what we were really desperately missing this year, was to be able to dance to that. But those of you out there in online land may notice that we're all sitting a chair apart from each other here. That's because we have to, not because we want to sit full. So we're still observing hygiene rules here underneath the tent related to Corona, and we're still trying to keep safe and stay safe, and hope all of you are doing that too. So I have a question that I would like to ask the students now, any of you, okay? And have courage, okay? So you read about what this was going to be this week. Maybe you had some idea. Tobias, you can't answer the question because you know too much. But for those of you who weren't involved in this every step of the way, like Tobias was, what did you think you were going to be doing this week? And how was it, what you did, compared to what you thought you would be doing? Does someone want to answer that, or just reflect on it a little bit? What was the experience like working on this material this week? I forgot to tell you that we deactivated their voice centers before we... Nobody wants to say anything about that? Everyone has an experience. Lisa. Okay, please come up. So, well, of all the people who would speak up about this is Lisa Gutkin, the world-famous violinist of the Cosmatics, who decided to stay with us to be part of this process this week, which we all greatly appreciate your being here, Lisa.
Thank
It's been
you.
great, yeah.
Well, no, I think it's really amazing to have this collection as a resource. And you know, Mark and I were talking earlier about it. It's like giving, you know, most tunes will survive because they're great tunes. You know, like they survive because they get played over and over again and they kind of live. But this collection didn't have that opportunity. So it's like we're giving the collection another opportunity to survive, and we'll see which tunes out of this collection become part of like a communal repertoire. So I think it's fantastic, and I love the way you've woven it into all kinds of lessons, and it just has woven, this collection has just woven its way through like every level of the teaching. So I thank you all, to my colleagues, because I learned a lot. So,
Thank you, thank you. So, of course, there's this question. Well, these are all just notes here. There are no chords. We do have some very surprisingly interesting phrase and bowing markings on these things. More than we have tended to have, and very informative, what we learned from that, right? You know, maybe I would like to ask the violinists, before going on to the question I was about to ask, have you learned anything about Yiddish violin from the notation? Like from bowing marks, from articulation marks, from accent marks, that you didn't already know? Have you learned anything that you didn't already know? Some people say yes, some people say no. Why don't you answer, if you like? We have 3 violinists here. Abigail, you want to start?
Sure. I mean, I think it's just really great to see bowings on there, especially, again, going back to Makonovetsky, because those are the hefts, the notebooks that we know that he actually wrote down. So I hope that he was writing them down with his bowings in mind. And also I was going through the manuscripts and just taking notes on different tunes, and I have several of them that I'm like, you need to go back to this tune because it's got bowings in here that are really important for my work of trying to figure out what the bowings are for the fiddle, because it's an ever-going process of trying to figure that out, what sounds good, what sounds vocal and good on the fiddle, and also ornaments. There's a couple of them that in the Makhnovetsky where it's like, oh, I like that. There's a trill there. I wouldn't have done that, or a mordant, or there's no like particular Kreksen writing down. Like there's not like a term for that, but you can sort of infer from the grace notes what might have been meant to be a Kreks. So, yeah.
Okay. Either Sam or Mark, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, there's an example we just worked on in our ensemble. There's a beautiful Kalbesetzen transcribed by Jutta Bogen, and we were talking about trills in it. There's a passage where is a sequence going from the top, the diddle 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 diddle, and in the first three of these triplets there is a trill, and in the following three there is no one. And we were thinking about, is it a mistake or is it intentional? And then by just trying out, the crazy notes. Yeah. By trying out, we realized, okay, maybe he just did it not because he was speeding up. And when you tried out this, it's completely clear that it's absolutely intentional to do it like this. And so we realized, yes, this is written by a violinist who just wrote down what he's doing.
Can we hear that? That's an example of that.
Okay. Oh yeah. So it's this one. Yeah. So there's a I'll go earlier. There's a line going down where there's grace notes and then they disappear. So. There's one that shows up at the end because I think he slows down. Maybe. That's what I'm deciding.
Can you put the mic down towards you more?
Yeah.
You play that again?
So.
Great. Thank you. Clarinetist, have you learned anything from the manuscript that wasn't already out there, that you didn't already know?
Yeah, there are a lot of violin tunes.
Wait, can I say something? I always talk about this, but the Galicianer taunts, I'm just always very excited about that. There's Schlemke Beckerman, I know you guys have all heard this, but Schlemke Beckerman plays Galicianer taunts, and it's in the Makhnovetsky book, and it is clearly for violin because there's all these open A strings that were omitted in the clarinet version. So I was very excited to see that.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So let me go.
To see like from the way it's phrased.
A little louder.
Like what Schlemke Beckerman does, he does a lot of phrasing, slurs and ties. Are they also in the violin?
Yeah, it's
right? Yes, and that's again a bowing thing, right? That's interesting for violinists. For us, it doesn't matter so much because we don't think about whether we suck and blow. We just blow, right? Unless we suck.
I did not hear that, and that did not go out over the internet. I'm sorry. Could you care to rephrase that? Christian David, ladies and gentlemen.
Non-violence.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you done?
No, for me it was interesting to see that someone writes this stuff down, because we as clarinetists, we know that from recordings mostly. From recordings by, especially Beckerman and Brandwein, they do that a lot, this kind of phrasing, right? And it was interesting to see that it's actually the same if violinists write that down, or that it's similar, right?
Very nice.
Just notated.
You know that the clarinets are copying the violins.
Yeah. No?
No, we don't know that. No.
I'm sorry, they're all copying the accordion. It's very clear that they're all copying the accordion. How could anyone not have accordion envy? I'm sorry, right, Christina? Come on.
Come on.
So, okay.
Just because it hadn't been invented yet.
Which is not even good.
Mean that
They save the best things for last. So, okay. So, all right, here's a hard question for us. And this might be a difficult question to discuss maybe we play a little of something. Maybe Ilya, you might be a good. Is Ilya still here? Where'd Ilya go? He disappeared.
He's sleeping.
We should wake him up. We need him. Like Horton hears a who.
Oh, he is actually sleeping.
Ilya.
You said it was okay to sleep.
Oh yes. Okay, but now we need him. But it's also okay to wake up again. Okay. Anyway, look, we had said that we wanted to look at this music from any number of points of view of interpretation. So actually, one way we did that was we have these two instrumental bands, and one of them we called the Traditional Klezmer Project, and the other one we called the New Yiddish Music Project, which really we can just say the non-traditional, whatever that means, or the less traditional. And I'm curious now if any of you have had thoughts. I gave a talk about this earlier this week, about that issue of what does it mean to play in a traditional style? What does it mean to play in a non-traditional style? Why would you ever want to play in a non-traditional style? Why would you ever want to play in a traditional style? I mean, so far today, we've been doing this for about 35 minutes, 40 minutes, and almost everything we've talked about had to do with traditional style. So we're obviously fascinated by that, because there's this feeling of like, you know, having discovered buried treasure, and we're opening up and it's all beautiful. And but there is this question of what does it mean to play it in a non-traditional style, and should we? Why should we? What's that all about? I'm curious of anybody's thoughts about this. Also, people in the audience who might have thoughts about what it is to play this in a traditional or a non-traditional. By the way, if we say a non-traditional style, that means a million possible different non-traditional styles. And I think if we say traditional style too, we can say, well, do you mean traditional style Dave Taras 1950s? Do you mean traditional style Dave Taras 1920s? Do you mean traditional style Dave Taras 1915? Which traditional style do you mean? So tradition is also something which needs to be defined by time and place, but still, we're more or less talking about an older style. So would somebody take a shot at that?
Was this a question for me?
Question is for anybody, but I thought you might like to have something to say about that, Ilya. I want you to be awake to hear it.
Oh, yeah.
That's your answer, yes?
The answer is yes.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I think the word traditional, the word. Sorry, I just woke up. I think the word traditional is a bit, like you said, a bit problematic as what is traditional. But also, I would say that the word new Yiddish music is also kind of problematic, because I don't know, you've been doing new Yiddish music for the last 30 years.
It's old new Yiddish music.
It's old new Yiddish. Yeah, well, exactly.
Brave old new Yiddish.
Yeah, brave, yes, exactly. Brave old.
Somewhat new Yiddish music.
I would just call it brave old new world music.
I don't like New World. Sorry.
Right. Anyway, but I mean, just like the new Yiddish music is, you know, can be ever renewing, and so the traditional music can also be new and old. It can be new tradition. I mean, we create our own traditions right here. You know, we make them up, and for me, a lot of traditional, playing in traditional style can have to do with function, like whether we're playing for a specific function. Like, for example, if playing dance music for dancing, right? In which case you can also play new Yiddish music, and you know, you can either keep the traditional dance form, or you can change the music to an extent where it's not danceable anymore, at least not danceable in a conventional way. But on the other hand, the dance tradition is also renewing as we speak, so yeah, that's my answer.
So is there a difference between looking into these notes to try to understand exactly how someone bowed something 100 years ago versus asking yourself, do I like a B flat chord or do I like a B minor chord against this D? Are those the same kind of questions, or are those different kinds of questions? This doesn't have a right or a wrong answer. I'm just curious to know your reflections about it.
I think all questions are different, but they're all related, in a sense that we want, I don't know, I want to make this music the old music, the new music. I want it to be, well, I just want to play music. I enjoy playing music. So, and I enjoy the fact that we all get together and we find ways where in which we can play music together. And that might mean agreeing on some things, also it may not agreeing on some things, but definitely the fact that we're all starting from the base, and we're trying to find out as much as possible about how it used to be, how it was performed originally, how was it intended originally, and then after we have all this common education, all this common knowledge, we can go in different directions, but we'll still have the common understanding of what the music is. And then, that means there's more chance for us to make music together. So
Okay.
it's a win.
I think it was the composer Virgil Thompson who said that young composers should not be allowed to listen to the old masters until they're at least 35 or 40 years old. Because if they did, they would get captured by this authority, the authority of that music, and they would never be able to be free. Now that's kind of the opposite of what we're saying here. We're saying, let's go deeply into a musical language because we think that that's going to be fruitful to come out of it. What about people who would say, well, if you spend all of your time doing that, then you have to turn on a whole different switch in your mind when you say, now let's do something new with it. Sam.
I think the melody we already played with the chromatic melody parts is a good example for opening minds while viewing on the old materials. Because if you are composing new stuff and you are trying to reflect on the old stuff, sometimes you make a decision not to go too far away, so it will be accepted as a part of the repertoire. And if you know there are so many chromatic notes in one piece, now the area is wider than we expected them.
Yes.
So it opens new spaces, even looking on the old stuff.
I want to say, I think what you just said, you kind of went over it quickly, but I think it's extremely important, is the question of whether something is accepted in the repertoire. And that means there has to be a community of people, not only the musicians, but a community that listens to that music and that relates to it in different ways, whether at weddings or on CDs or something, and it becomes that community's music then. I mean, Lisa, you're across from me and playing in the klezmatics, and the music of the klezmatics is very different from what we hear on recordings from the 1920s, but it's very clearly unimportant music of the Jewish community of the world today. But if the Jewish community of the world hadn't accepted it, it would have been nice try. So the acceptance of a repertoire by a community of people that it takes it on and says, this is ours, we call this ours, I think that's an extremely important step in all of this.
I never thought about that. What I see is that this chromaticism is something that Berezovsky did not accept so much as being worthy of his collection, when he's saying these 270 something tunes are Jewish instrumental folk music. And I'm asking you, everybody, to weigh in on this, that I feel like there's less of this sort of chromaticism in that collection. Is that right?
I think you could say that.
I mean, and because what I'm hearing is that, what's their names? I'm so tired. Susie and Sylvia have found, they've been like, Sylvia sat down and read through like, hi guys, oh, is that you? Hi. Sorry, I haven't forgotten you. I just sort of temporarily forgot your names. But I mean, Sylvia has gone through like 500 or 600 pieces and sat down and played for herself, and so that they could get an eye on the repertoire, and has pulled out like this whole just beautiful basket filled with these like there's like silly share and one of the Bulgars that's in our book, and they're all filled with these like glorious chromatic runs and all kinds of like really fun stuff. And it's kind of a new sound. It's a new sound for me to say that, well, it didn't make Berezovsky's cut to be serious Jewish music, but we could decide that we're going to take this into our repertoire and kind of embrace this chromatic stuff. And I do appreciate that, Sylvia and Susie, that you've brought that to us in the jam sessions and into this tune book in particular. And we're finding it in other places, but I think they turfed out a lot of that stuff.
But I think another thing to think about is like, as we're going through these books, what are we attracted to? Like, I think that it's like, maybe we're attracted to the things that are different. And I would wonder actually what is the percentage of the tunes that have the chromaticisms, or are we just pulling out every single one of them? You know, so,
Yeah,
you know, because the ones that sound like the ones that we know, like I think somebody said that earlier, Christian was like, oh yeah, there's just all these tunes that,
Or just like all the
or they are the same tunes, that we're like, okay, yeah, ooh.
Right, unusual. Maybe it would be nice, because one of the purposes of this particular session was to share with people out in the outside world what it's like a little bit to be in the workshop. And I think they got a good dose of the kinds of discussions that we have, and also that we back those up with playing. But I think it could be fun for us to just play some tunes for them out there in the world and let them play along with us, if you would all like to do that. Would that make sense?
Yes.
Do you like that idea?
Sure. Yeah, I had some comments about that whole discussion.
Oh, Craig had comments about the discussion. You want to get in now? You can.
All right, I'll get in.
Are there questions? Oh, you mean questions or your comments?
No, my some comments about the last couple of things.
Craig Udelman.
Thank you very much. No, to me, like, that's part of, like, yeah, some of what Ilya was saying connected to this stuff, like, the distinction New Jewish music traditional obviously is like, it's a bit of a fabrication, or not a fabrication, but it's, you know, it's something. Like, I think these chromatic lines, that was New Jewish music back then. Like, they, you know, they didn't have that in Hasidic Nigunim. Like, it seems fairly clear that, like, if you go back 100 years before then, they weren't probably playing that kind of stuff. I think we'd say, you know. So when this stuff was created, there had been this whole new thing developing over the 50, 100 years before that, and like all these violin concertos and things, and it's like, probably that mirrors things like Kalabzetzins and Taksims and whatever that went back further, but they took this tradition and elevated, but evolved it towards what was happening, I think, in the non-Jewish circles of these concertos, and, you know, people like Makhnovetsky, like, yeah, he wanted to be also just a great classical violinist, you know, and there's plenty more conversation we could have around that. But the other big point I think I just wanted to make was, I think it's easy to look at this stuff from our perspective, which is usually like, there was this rich Jewish culture in Europe, and then the Holocaust happened and it all disappeared, and we have these little fragments of treasures that like take us back to there, and so we have this obligation to sort of like revive them, or to keep them alive and take them forward. And I think it's been interesting for me to realize how much people at that time felt like that process had already started in the 1860s or so, and especially after the events in the early 20th century, like it was, you know, certain towns were just gone from the war. And that a lot of what I think the people collecting this stuff were doing it for was actually to make new Yiddish music. It wasn't to like save the past just because like we need this thing of it, but it's like they wanted to create this new Yiddish music. So I just, like, yeah, for me, sometimes you feel like, oh, like, can I play this in a new way because, like, they wrote it this way and, like, you know, we're supposed to play the traditional thing or something. It's like, no, I think, you know, Berezovsky and Onsky, these people would be really happy to hear a reharmonized version of whatever it is, or, like, reimagined stuff. Like, that's why they did it.
That's great. And it fits in with, at the very beginning of the summer, Craig and I did a piece together, and he came over and put it in front of me, and I was expecting that he was expecting me to do a very traditional harmonization. He really encouraged me to open up and take it out and to do all the crazy harmony that I love to do. And basically ever since then, people have been trying to put me back in my cage out of this harmony craziness jungle that I've been floating around in, but Craig liked it. So I thought, well, if Craig liked it, I guess it's okay. So it's half a joke. But I wanted to say just a quick thing about where did this term New Jewish music come from? I want to tell you that at least in how I started using it, it was a matter of truth in advertising, really. Because Brave Old World used to play concerts, and they were advertised as klezmer music concerts. And then we would play stuff that the audiences didn't think was klezmer music. And we felt like, well, we don't want to constantly be disappointing everybody. Like if I say Beatles music, and we come and we don't play any Beatles music. They're like, why did you call that Beatles music? You know, we can say music from England if we want to, or music Liverpool or something. But we need to call it something that people, they don't feel that they're being tricked into coming to this concert. So we were looking for a a category that would be broad enough that we could do whatever we wanted to do, both instrumental music and vocal music, an audience that, like, if I pay for a concert that's new Jewish music and I hear Brave Old World, I can't say it's not the klezmer music I'm used to, because we didn't promise you that, right? So, and then it turned into new Yiddish music because I felt that new Jewish music, we felt, was becoming such a broad, watered-down term that it didn't have any content anymore, partly because the term Jewish doesn't have very much specific cultural content. That can be Arabic Jewish, Southern Indian Jewish, it can be Carpathian Jewish, it can be Caucasian Jewish, and so all of those things, what do they have in common other than the term Jewish in them? So we thought, let's call this Yiddish, and Yiddish is a specific cultural framework, and new Yiddish music is music which is in some way new, anchored in that. I would like to suggest, just for fun, if it's okay, let's play the Gassenstickel, just because I think it's beautiful.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. And then maybe we can think about whether, as a contrast to that, we want to do Cheesy Mac or not. I won't insist on it. Let's play the Gassenstickel. Everybody ready? Listen. Yes, thank you. Mac 1-32-117.
It's the same one from earlier.
It's the same one from earlier. But we didn't play it as an orchestra earlier, did we today?
We did, but just the B section.
Yeah, right. Let's play the whole piece. Let's play the whole piece. It's just, I love it so much. Okay, all ready?
One, two, three.
Beautiful piece. Are there any questions out there on Facebook or YouTube? Let's just say that we're very open to questions and give people a minute to see if they want to ask them. No questions? Would you feel like playing a Cheesy Mac just as an example of what that's like?
Sure.
Yeah.
Does anybody have the...
Could we do the original?
Does anybody have classic Mac?
Classic Mac and then Cheesy Mac.
Like,
You have
we
it?
can at least put the Kisselhoff number out, because I know that the Cheesy Macs have the actual number on it.
It's a Mac 127 tones.
Oh, that's right. Mac 3, 127, 227. That's it. Okay. We are such nerds.
Welcome to our world. Okay, this piece is Mac 3-127-227.
So we're going to play it once straight, and then we're going to play this slightly crazy version of it.
Classic Mac.
Classic Mac, followed by
Cheesy Mac.
Cheesy Mac. Okay. Cheesy Mac is an arrangement that we created for the New Yiddish Music Trio.
I don't have it.
Who has Classic Mac?
I never ended up with that.
Probably figure it out.
Mark.
What?
You know the original?
Sure, yes.
I think I can do it too.
We can do it? Let's give it a try. 1, 2,
Okay. The first version sounded wrong.
Yeah, it does.
Very vanilla.
That's really funny. We got so used to this new version that the first version, I couldn't remember it anymore. Okay, good. Well, I think we're at the end. If we don't have any questions from people out in online land, let's just find out one more time if there's any questions. No questions.
Good.
An unusually
Even easier for us.
taciturn group of people out there today.
Is
Okay.
anyone watching?
Is anyone watching? We're watching ourselves. Let's say hi to them. Hello. Hi, everybody. We hope that you're all healthy and safe, and hope that you can join us either in Weimar or in New York or in Canada or wherever we all come together. We're a big traveling community of people. We're not all in the same places all the same time, but a lot of us are in various places. We're kind of fuzzy sets. We believe in fuzzy sets, right? Okay, next year we'll call this the fuzzy set special focus.
We have a whole, in our Klezmer Archive project, we have, we had a whole session on fuzzy tune boundaries.
There you go.
And fuzzy genre boundaries.
Okay.
So
yeah,
all
that's
in the same.
a lot of what we do here is fun and but it's also serious, and how could it not be when the center of it is playing music together? So I want to thank all of you. I want to thank especially Craig Gudelman for together with Ilya and Christina and some other people pushing hard to have us have these streaming sessions. And I hope you all enjoy them. We'll put them online. What's happening this week? Craig, you want to tell us what's coming up this week?
There's the Hasidic music workshop.
There's the Hasidic music workshop.
Yeah, me and Alan will be teaching some lovely Hasidic tunes from the collection and from the world. Ilya will be doing the dance orchestra with
Sylvia,
Susie, Abby,
and Yuta,
and Yuta, and Hannah will be there too. Paulina's leading a choir workshop, which should be really fun. And yeah, we'll have a few live streaming sessions from all 3 workshops.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, the Hasidic one will actually not be live from here, but we'll be having Avi Noam, our dear friend in the Maggid of Kreuzberg, as we like to call him, zoom in from Kreuzberg, and we'll explore some cool Tolner Nigunim and other a journey through how Nigunim and Hasidic stuff travels in different Hasidic dynasties and families with musical accompaniment. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Alan for
Thank you. Pleasure.
a wonderful session.
Yeah.
Stay safe and stay close. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.